take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. I hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. Yeah, I hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, hit the ground, then it go off. Yeah, run it. Ooh, I really feel it's my time, think it's my year. Yeah, I really feel it's my time, think it's my year. Yeah, I really feel it's my time, think it's my year. Yeah, I really feel it's my time, think it's my pen ready. Used to hold myself back, my self-esteem been petty. Gotta keep on chugging, ran through everything in front of me. Might smoke bed heavy, got a whole agenda. Can't aspire to get ahead, so bump that, it's no surrender. Got a dollar flipped up, I'm trying to get it in FT to get them when they're in hand and crypto. Learn how to fix that. I don't really hold out the books, but I'ma learn how to fix that. Some opportunities that never come unless you paying attention, so no, I can't miss that. Moving, MVP, I got the record, I might have to prove something. Big jumper worthy, they gon' have to retire my jersey early. Whole crew coming, had to work something, cause I had nothing in my pocket. Yeah, I did all that. Big plans, partners trying to make profits. Yeah, I did all that. Work, sweat, and tears breaking, even no ends. Yeah, I did all that. Had to make it happen. Putting hours in my practice, I did all that. Yeah, I can't take no loss. Yeah, I don't even know what it costs.
Welcome to the Battleground 2k24 press conference. I appreciate all you guys being here. That video gets me excited because we're right around the corner. College basketball season is here, and that video is just kind of a prelude to what's to come. My name is Rossi Karen, founder of United Sports and Entertainment, and I am honored to be on this stage. And in a few minutes, I'll be sharing a stage with two incredible coaches, but more importantly, two guys that I have a ton of respect for, not just because they have the basketball component down pat, but they're great leaders of men. I want to thank all of the media and friends that are here in attendance, and also want to thank you guys for tuning in on live stream. This event is special to me. It's an incredible showcase, and I believe that it's going to be one of the best events in the country for the non-conference schedule. Today's segment will be unbelievable. Coach Sampson is here. Coach Lanier is here. He'll join me on stage. And then later we'll do a special video conference interview with Coach Bruce Pearl. Again, this is a prelude to, this press conference is great, but it's just a small taste of what's to come with the Battleground 2k24, November 9th at Toyota Center, featuring two high-level games. And the four teams that are participating, Rice, Florida State, Houston, and Auburn. So I'm looking forward to that event. One of the things that's super important to me, and as with all of our United Sports and Entertainment events, that there's a community component attached to it. So today we'll talk hoops, we'll talk preseason, we'll talk expectations, we'll talk matchups for Battleground. But I don't want to miss the most important element. It's what we call combining competition with community. And that's something that's super important to me. I really believe that to whom much is given, much is required, and not to preach, but these athletes have an incredible life. They get the opportunity to travel all over the country, to play in high-level events, stay in nice hotels, eat nice food. But I also think it's important that as coaches and as mentors, that we help those student athletes find their passion for giving back in a genuine way. And that's one of the things we want to do with our community component. So the event is on November 9th, Saturday, November 9th. But on Friday, November 8th, each of the four teams will be in Houston participating in a community activation that we're putting together. And the goal is to impact the lives of kids here in Houston. Okay, so each of the four teams, November 8th, will be in the city, and we'll announce our community partners on next week. But I'm really excited about that element. It's great for the student athletes. Obviously, it's great for the kids here, and it's great for the universities. In a second, before I bring the coaches on, I want to kind of make a special announcement, and that announcement is of our title partner, our official title partner. I'm super excited about it. And whenever you're looking for a partner, you want a partner, obviously, that you believe in their product, that their values are aligned with your values. And for me, it's important that they have close proximity so that the community that's important to me, the community that's important to our event, is also important to them. So we found that partner. And so what I would like to announce is our partnership, the Battleground 2K, with Mattress Firm. And now the event will be called Mattress Firm Battleground 2k24. So we're really excited about that. Mattress Firm, thank you for your partnership. thank you for your commitment, and we know that your commitment to this event will not only elevate the games on the court, but it'll also elevate the community that we're involved in. And so the first thing, I told a couple of people about the partnership, and the first thing that people ask is, man, are y'all going to give away free mattresses? So I haven't talked to Mattress Firm about that, but yes, we're going to give away at least one free mattress. So our goal is at halftime of each game that we can give away one free mattress, all right? All right. The second thing we want to announce are the game times and television networks. So game one, November 9th, the Mattress Firm Battleground 2k24. Rice will play Florida State at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and that game will be broadcast on ESPN+. And then the second game, University of Houston versus Auburn, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and that game will be broadcast on ESPNU. Everybody, I'll make sure everybody got it. Y'all good with that? Okay. All right. Without further ado, I would like to get this interview session started. Again, I'm honored to be on the stage and to share a stage with these gentlemen. This segment is brought to you, obviously, by Mattress Firm. And again, we're going to talk hoops. We're going to talk community. We're going to talk expectations. We're going to talk preseason. And then we're going to talk big-time matchups that both of these coaches and their programs have in the Battleground 2K. Mattress Firm Battleground 2k24, November 9th at Toyota Center. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the head coach of the University of Houston, Coach Kelvin Sampson, and the head coach of Rice University, Coach Rob Lanier. Give those guys a hand clap as they come on stage. Thank you guys for being here. How y'all doing?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing.
Congratulations on your Mattress Firm partnership.
I'm excited about that. Now I can throw out my old mattress. Mattress Firm, I'm expecting a new mattress. I can throw out my old mattress. Coach Lanier, you doing okay?
I'm doing great, brother. Good
I
to see
appreciate both of you guys for being here. Just to get started, I know that like college basketball season is here, and I know everybody's looking forward to the games. But to coaches, sometimes you're not looking that far ahead. You're trying to figure out today. And, preseason practice has started. You guys are 2 weeks in. I'll start with you, Coach Sampson. Tell me a little bit about preseason preparation and how you feel going into the upcoming season.
Well, we have 3 new players. Milos Uzan is transitioning to playing in our system. Mercy Miller, high school freshman, and Chase McCarty. Not Chase McCarthy, Chase McCarty, T-Y, not T-H-Y. Your team's going to change dramatically. People focus on the guys you have coming back, but the guys that they're playing with have never played in our system, so we have to start over for them. Now, the other guys have to be patient and remember what it was like for them when they got in the program, and the veteran guys that had to, go down to the bottom and work their way back up. But all teams this time of year, you're trying to establish your identity, how it is you want your team to play, both ends of the court in between. Holding kids accountable to the effort level that it takes to be successful, and just grow each day. Every day you're trying to see if you can get better in some area of the game.
And Coach Lanier, your situation is a little different than Coach Sampson because he knew who he had coming back, and he had a great core to build on. Your situation is different. Tell me a little bit about your preseason, kind of what you were looking at coming in and kind of your expectations going forward.
Yeah, the major difference is, Coach has built a program. The program has a standard. You still got to work that and push that forward. And then you have to, each year, your team has to match the standard that the program has set. Well, we got to do both of those things. We have to build a program and establish with this first group to try to develop a team inside of that. And we got 10 brand new guys. Even the guys that were here are new to us, and we're new to them. So in that way, it's been great. There's been a lot of buy-in, so you're looking for that. We haven't had to pull a lot of teeth. So the guys are trying to buy into what we're doing and getting a sense for what it feels like, the program. But so far, I'm pleased with the group, and we're a work in progress for real. Yeah.
And just to follow up on that, you mentioned standard, and I've had the opportunity, I live in Houston, to watch what Coach Sampson has built. And that standard is about culture, and you hear Coach Sampson talk about culture a lot. But to me, teams take on the identity of their coaches. So when I watch his teams play in practice, they play like he coaches. So what can we expect from Rice basketball from a culture standpoint, and how does who you are as a person impact your team?
It's always tough to talk about that. I would just say, we do have a track record as a head coach, and generally, our teams have been tough, defensive-minded groups, and so I'm hopeful that that's what you'll see. That's what we're building with this group, and I just think from a program standpoint, we put a lot of emphasis on time. We talk a lot about the value of time and what you do with it, and I think it's a learning process for this group, getting better at making the most of the time we have, because we all know, I'm sitting here looking at you, and I remember coaching against you, and just seeing what you're doing right now says to me that this is a gentleman who's made the most of his time, right?
I appreciate that.
And that's certainly what we're trying to teach young people, and in our program, it's becoming they're becoming more and more aware of how important it is to me that we make the most of our time, our practice time, the individual work that they put in, and the overall level of commitment to the program has been heightened. And so I think there's a shared sense throughout the program that things are a little bit different.
Coach Sampson, early on in the season, obviously you have a bunch of returners, and I think you kind of know what to expect from those guys. Who has been the biggest surprise, whether it's a returner or a newcomer to you, that when they came back or when they stepped in, you're like, this guy's a lot better than I thought he was going to be?
I don't know if I would say one guy. All of our returners, I think, have gotten better. We had four kids that had surgery in the off season, so a lot of them were out a significant amount of time. LJ had a bridge over his fifth metatarsal. He broke both of his feet at Baylor. That's where his breaks occurred, and then we had to fortify one of them over the off season. Terrence had Achilles is a horrific injury. He's still not 100% from that. He's still, we have to watch him, especially toward the end of practices. You have to, a lot of times you tell your young men to let pain be their guide. Be careful with that. And I don't mind any of our kids that have had surgery. You don't need my permission to step off the floor. I don't know how your foot feels. That's your foot. JoJo Tugler. I'd say JoJo's probably the one that's closest to being, you could tell he's improved. He was starting to turn the corner, I think, in February, and he was really coming around. I mean, the Baylor game, he played the Baylor game with a broke foot. We didn't know it till afterwards, but he played really well that day. Who's the other one? What am I missing there at 4? Who was it, Lauren? Who? Oh, J1. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen J1 healthy. So I just assumed that I'd already mentioned him. He just kind of goes into the of course category. But he's Yeah, J1 is in his 6th year, but when J1 got here, he was 17 years old. We've had so many 17 years old when they arrived on campus. Jamal Shedd was 17, J1 17, Marcus 17, Terrence 17, Javier 17. JoJo was 17. So we get them young and we kind of grow them. I call them our garden. We go out in the garden when they're ready, we pick them, versus going down to the grocery store to aisle 8 and buying your team. I'd rather grow my team. But that's just the way everybody's way of doing it is the right way for them. But there's some things that the older guys are ready to move on, but the new guys aren't, and we can't. The new guys aren't ready to go with the old guys, and the old guys have to be patient to stay with the young guys. But we have a scrimmage coming up here a week from Saturday, and then we have a charity game on the 27th. So we're getting ready for those and getting the entire team ready. When we scrimmage, we don't scrimmage. I don't know how many players I'm gonna play. I really haven't thought about it. But in the scrimmage and the games, you let everybody play, so everybody can show you what they can do and who can fit where and where. But we'll see.
You mentioned, which I find very interesting, that you named maybe 6 or 7 guys that you brought in at 17 years old, and obviously the recruiting landscape has changed significantly. So Coach Lanier, when you hear him say that he's bringing in those guys, but you also know the battle that you're fighting because you're playing against 23 and 24-year-old guys in games now. What are you looking for from a recruiting standpoint from players, which has changed since you and I met 10 years ago?
Yeah, it's changed dramatically. I've been really fortunate and blessed to have a great staff. And we've tried to take the same approach. It got me in trouble at my last stop. But we were trying to grow a program. I love that analogy, grow players.
A garden.
Because, and it's what attracted me to Rice, is that I wanted to be at a place where I could do it that way, and a place with the academic standards that we have makes it conducive to that. The challenge is finding young people who have the academic qualifications to play at our place that love the game, that want to put the time in, that we're asking of them, that it's not an inconvenience for them to put the work in that we want to put in basketball-wise. And so from a recruiting standpoint, we're trying to find Rice students who are high-level competitors.
Is that a small pool, though?
It's a small pool, but it exists.
It exists.
And you only got to get 8 of them. But you can't get wrapped up in what guys are ranked and all this kind of stuff. You have to find your guys. You got to know them when you see them, and then you got to develop them. And that's why I mentioned my staff, because you got to have a group of people around you that know what you need as a coach.
I think that, again, I'll go back to Coach Sampson. I talk to your son Kellen at least once a week, and when he talks about players, he talks about guys that fit your culture. Talk to me a little bit about, which is different than any other culture, in my opinion. What are you looking for when you're out on the recruiting trail? What is Kellen looking for? What is Quantas looking for when they're out on the recruiting trail to find guys that fit your culture?
Or talent. There's a lot of guys that fit our culture that can't play.
Let's start there. Talent.
So we try not to recruit them.
Let's start with talent.
Yeah, let's start with talent. The one thing that all the kids in our program have in common is they're all talented. That's why so many other schools recruited them all the way back. I remember the schools that, whether it was Galen or Rob Gray or Damian Dotson, I just can, they all had choices because they're talented. The kids today, they have choices. We just had a young man commit. Anytime a kid chooses your school, he chose your school. But before that occurred, we chose him. You know, we choose him first, and then he chooses us. But, you know, he's deciding on us. But we had to decide on him first. You know, we have a decision. You know, I've had kids come on campus, and once they got there, I've had my players come and say, Coach, that kid is not going to work here. He will not fit. And I trust our players because it is their culture. I may have established it, but the players are the ones that make it flow. You know,
They take ownership of it.
they take ownership. Our coaching staff does. So, you know, they all have to have a level of toughness. You know, they all don't come in. When you guys see them, you know, you have no idea who they are. And over time, you get to know them. But before you ever see them, like we're recruiting kids right now, that you say, I always get a kick out of this. I remember watching hours of video on Tajay Moore because I had to decide. Now, Tajay had already decided he wanted to come to Houston. And, you know, we had to vet him, make sure that he wasn't going to come in. I don't want to bring anybody in here who's going to screw up what we have. It's precious to me. So we had to make sure. But after watching him play and then talking to all the people that I needed to talk to, I knew he was going to be exciting. He was a better athlete than he was a basketball player, which means he's probably closer to the Globetrotters than he was to the Cougars. But I know if he would buy in, he was going to be a great asset for us. But no, recruiting is, I think we probably evaluate more than we recruit. Because we start with the talent. You know, you don't have to be very smart to figure out who the most talented guy in the room is. But that guy may not be for us. And there's a lot of these five-star, really, really talented kids. I'd rather coach against them. And I'll pick the ones I want to coach.
Coach Lanier, you and I, I've known you over 10 years. And I don't know if you remember, I met you. You might have been at the University of Texas at the time. We met to watch your son's middle school 8th grade game. He played on a pretty good middle school team. I don't remember if it was here in Houston or in Austin. We kind of sat and watched your son play. That was at least 8 years ago, I'm assuming. You know, again, we talked about recruiting has changed. Some of it is age, some of it because of the transfer portal, but I think the biggest thing now is NIL. How much has NIL impacted the way you recruit and the way you approach the guys that you feel are the best fit for you?
You know, I've been fortunate because outside of the last 2 years, you know, I was at Georgia State where, you know, at the mid-major level, you're not exempt from the effects of NIL, but you're not engaged in it in the same way. There's a little bit more of the old school purity at the mid-major level in some cases. Now, I've been really fortunate that I have yet to have the experience as a head coach where a guy who I really love coaching comes into my office and says that he wants to leave. So, you know, I don't see any wood to knock on, but we've been blessed in that way, and that goes back maybe to my staff, maybe a little bit of luck. But in general, NIL hadn't affected us as much at that level. The last year or so, we've been more involved in it, and then now being at Rice, it's a totally different deal because, again, you're dealing with kids that I used to be able to watch guys play and just evaluate them like Coach is saying, and then decide, all right, this is a guy we want to go after. I've had to learn the hard way that that's not the order of things at Rice, and I like it. Like I coveted the job when I knew there was some interest because I wanted to exist in the closest thing to the purity of what we're doing as I could find under the circumstances that I was in at that particular time. And so the first thing we are evaluating is the transcript. And so that eliminates, you know, you mentioned that it was a smaller pool. It just got smaller.
It got smaller.
Yeah. So, but I'm okay with that because we do have to find young people that want to be at our place. And so that mitigates some of the transactional nature of what we're dealing with nowadays. And then still trying to find competitive guys who love the game, who want to put in the work and all of that stuff. And then we go about making the most of that time.
So let's pivot now and talk about the Battleground 2K. November 9th at Toyota Center. Two incredible games, two high-level matchups, and something that I believe is really great for the city because it's two local teams, and that the fan base here will get behind you guys and support you guys. Coach Sampson, talk about your matchup with Auburn and how you're preparing or viewing that matchup, because I believe that that's one of the best non-conference games of the college basketball season.
Yeah. Well, every year, first of all, Bruce and I have known each other for 30-plus years. I mean, I knew Bruce when he was an assistant coach at Iowa, when he was the head coach at Southern Indiana, when he was at UW Milwaukee. Bruce has always been one of the top coaches, top characters, top ambassadors for our program. Great guy, good for the game, really good for the game. Could be really good in just about any area. I remember watching him on TV thinking Bruce may not go back to coaching because
He's really good.
yeah, he's one of the best guys doing that. And then he goes to coaching, he's one of the best guys doing that. But I don't know a lot about his team, obviously. Haven't looked at the game like that. But I know every year Auburn is really good. We do have a recent history, so I'm sure that I know Janai Broom is back. He's one of the top, not just top big men, he's one of the top players in the country. And so it's going to be a great game for college basketball, but I'm excited for our Houston fans and the fans here in the city of Houston to have the opportunity to see that game.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too, and Houston fans are definitely going to have to come out and support. I think I looked at tickets. Auburn has about 2,500 fans that are already committed to coming, so that's going to be exciting. So I'm expecting a ton of Houston fans to be in the building as well. Coach Lanier, talk about your matchup with Florida State and what that means to your program and what you're looking to get out of that matchup.
Yeah, first of all, my admiration for Coach Hamilton's
Hall of Famer.
He, along with Coach Sampson, are the two guys that I admire the most in our profession. And Leonard just happens to be one of those guys, if you call him at 11 p.m., he's going to answer the phone, and he's going to stay on the phone as long as you need him. And I think the reason why I admire both of those guys so much, because I've been in the profession since I was 21. And I studied it, and I always admired the guys who were successful head coaches that looked like me. And so Kelvin stood out to me as a young coach when I was at Texas and competing against those Oklahoma teams. And Coach Hamilton has been unbelievable for me, and we had an opportunity to play his team last year at his place.
And you won that game.
We did. I don't get to go in with the same team, and his team is going to be different. But they always have tremendous length. They're always switching 1 through 5, and they play extremely, extremely hard. And so you could at least count on that much. We know it's a game that I don't want to think about too much today. I'm forced to think about it because I'm here with you.
It's right around the corner.
We got enough.
November 9th.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch both of those games. And again, putting on event stuff is cool, but I mean, you guys know me. Like I'm a basketball guy. Like I enjoy the basketball component of it, and I'm looking forward to sitting courtside and watching those games. We're going to conclude this segment, and because we have some media guys in attendance that I want to make sure that you guys can get some of your questions to them. So this next segment will be brought to you by our merchandise partner, Basketball University, sports performance gear for on and off the court. One of the things that Basketball University is really pushing strong now is their Hoop City collection. The Hoop City collection can be found at buhoops.com, and also the Hoop City T-shirts, buhoops.com. All right, as we flow into this next segment, Alex, you're here. We have the mics ready to go. So we are going to take a couple of questions from media, and then I'll probably take maybe one or two questions from online if we can get that done. So let's, if you guys are ready, media, you guys are ready to start questions. We'll start here. You guys, please say your name, media outlet, and then address your question to the coach.
Chris Gardner, Houston Round Bar Review. Coach Sampson, you work with Rossi, participated in a Rossi event more than once, so just what about Rossi do you like about his events?
First of all, he's very honest. I know exactly what it is I'm going to get. He's well respected at all levels of basketball. I think parents have a lot of respect for Rossi. I know that firsthand. I think the players that he's associated with have great respect for him. And I know the coaches do. So when we make decisions that impact our basketball team and our university, I want to work with someone that I know exactly what it is I'm going to get from him. So Rod's, the respect that we have for Rossi, plus it doesn't hurt that I like him.
I'm likable, Coach. I appreciate it. That's a fantastic question. Anybody else has questions about how great I am, please ask those questions.
I'm thinking that was a plan, Rossi. Nice.
Next question.
Chris Baldwin, Paper City, Houston. For both coaches, how important are these neutral site games to filling out your schedule, and to have one close to campus like this? I mean, what kind of difference does that make?
Yeah, I think it's great on a lot of levels. I think Rossi made it apparent that the community connection is important. I think from a scheduling standpoint, in Coach's case, to play Auburn, to have a high-level game for the resume that they're going to build, for our program and our team to have the opportunity to compete at a high level against one of the great coaches in our game, and to do that on a neutral site in our community. It also gives you some scheduling flexibility as you build your schedule to have these one-time neutral type games, because you can do these every year. There isn't necessarily a return component. So we like to build the neutral games, one or two a year, into our schedule so we can maintain a level of scheduling flexibility.
Well, I think it's important that the coach know his team before he schedules the games. That's why the coach should do the schedule. Being in the Big 12, especially going to 20 games, we don't play an 18-game schedule. If you play an exempt tournament, you can play up to 31 games. So you start with 31 games. Now, when you had 18 conference games, you're working with a 13-game non-conference schedule. Now you work with 11 games non-conference schedule. So were it not for NIL, some of these games would not be played. But because of NIL, we have to do things that's necessary. So a lot of this stuff is we're playing these games not to impress anybody. I could care less about that. But because we have to, because NIL.
Next question. Chris here.
Coach Lanier, just your thoughts on the community aspect of the Battleground 2K.
Well, I think it's great. In particular, for us, I think anytime you're a new coach and a new program in a community and you're trying to develop a feel for the fan base and the following, I do know just personally that the city of Houston has a great basketball community. I'm aware of that. And I think for us, the opportunity to build our personal relationship as a program, Rice Basketball, that we have an opportunity to make a greater connection with the community. And so for us, it's a great opportunity for us to get out in front of the community and put a good foot forward, if you will, in terms of the type of basketball we intend to play, because I do think in due time, a great basketball community like the city of Houston and the surrounding area will be able to identify with our approach and get more comfortable and connected with what we got going on at Rice.
Coach, I'm going to take one question from online. Is for Coach Sampson. What advice would you give to a young coach who's trying to get into the business?
Take a chance. Get out of your comfort zone and really work at establishing relationships with the assistant coaches at a college at any level. The problem with a lot of guys that want to get into college, they want to start in Division I. That's difficult. It's like being a journalist and you want to start with the Houston Chronicle versus working your way up with the Daily Cougar. You got to
steps.
You can't skip steps. I started as a grad assistant. I really wanted to be a high school coach. I didn't know anything about college coaching. It was never in my mindset until I got to Michigan State. And then the only job I could get was an assistant coach at an NAI school. So therein lies a lot of the problem with guys that want to get into coaching. They want to get into coaching on their terms. You've got to be willing to go work for a very low hourly wage and sacrifice. If you do that, then you'll have a chance.
I think that I know a lot of young guys that are trying to get into coaching. I think that one of the things, like you said, is I see two reasons in value in it is connecting with assistant coaches, because sometimes those guys are the next guys
Yes.
that will get a head coaching job. Sometimes the head coaches, they have their guys already, but the next crop of guys. I think the other thing is, like you said, is to be flexible and to be able to get in and go in and say, hey, coach, you may not have an assistant position open, but can I get in anywhere to show my value and to really work hard and to prove to you that as I earn more, that I can get more opportunity? Coach Lanier.
I love talking to young coaches. I would say all of those things. The networking piece is critical, but it's equally critical to develop a reputation as somebody that works hard, that is trustworthy, and has a level of humility. Because I always say networking is important if you have a good reputation as a worker and as a person. Otherwise, you're just allowing more people to know
the truth.
who don't think highly of you.
Yeah.
You have to build a reputation for being a guy that's worthy of the opportunity as well.
I want to make a point about the schedule. Scheduling today, Chris, is so much different than it was when I was scheduling in the late 80s, for instance, at Washington State, and how difficult it was to get teams to play you. Because the only teams that wanted to play us was teams that wanted to buy us and come to their gym. And we were trying to get teams to come to our gym so our fans could see good teams in non-conference. It's just really hard to do that. And one of the things that's really changed, I think, in the last 5 to 10 years is the advent of these neutral site games. Those teams don't like playing home and home, especially in the tougher conferences. Through analytics, I think it's been proven that the toughest league in the country before we got to the Big 12 was the Big 12. It didn't get good because we got here. It was good before we got here. So now moving to 20 games, I think it's really changed some things. But I do think this: if you think you have a good team, and I do think we have a good team, I don't know what level of good. That'll be determined by things out of my control. But if you do think you have a good team, you should go challenge your team, which is what we're doing. I like the fact that we're playing Alabama and Notre Dame and Rutgers and Auburn. I think that's good for this team. We may get beat in some of these games, but I think that's where you learn a lot about your team because you want to be the best you can be as the season moves on. So if you got a really good team, don't be afraid to get beat. Don't be afraid to challenge them because I think you learn more from your losses in non-conference than you do your wins. I can remember winning at Oregon, winning at Virginia. I'm not sure what those games were like going in. I felt like if we played good, we were probably going to win if we played good. But if we didn't play good, okay, here's a lesson to learn. You'll learn a lesson from that too. You got to be at a certain level to win games on the road. So I'm excited about our schedule, and I'm excited about our team.
Any other questions for media before I take in the back there?
Marcus Sloan, OTR Exposure. There aren't many men of color who put on collegiate events like this, and Rossi's been doing this now for 3 or 4 years, and to have 2 men of color who are the head coaches of major college basketball programs in a city like Houston, can you guys talk about the significance and importance of that and having young men of color, play for you guys, attend your games, you guys recruit young men of color, and not only the importance of it being in the city of Houston, but as far as the global impact of it being on the ESPN networks, seeing, guys can look at you guys and say, hey, that could be me one day?
That's a great question, Marcus. One of my favorite games every year is the Eracism game. And because it brings up an important date when Coach John McClendon had his North Carolina Central team play a Duke team in the days of segregation. My father coached during segregation. I was raised during segregation. I remember Charlie Scott being the first African-American player. He was handpicked by Dean Smith at the University of North Carolina. When I was a young coach in the business, I remember George Raveling, John Thompson, Nolan Richardson, and John Chaney. Those were the guys that I looked up to because those were the guys that looked most like me, and we need that. One of the things that I'm an advocate for is more people of color in athletic director positions. I think that's the next horizon. Is getting more decision makers. I think that will help people of color. But being in this city, I think this is the city of hope when it comes to that. Look at the head coach for the Astros last year in Dusty. Look at the last 2 coaches for the Texans. Look at the last 2 coaches for the Rockets. This is a city where young people of color can look up and have a dream of being able to do something one day because there's people that look like you to do that. So I do think that's important.
Coach Lanier, you have something?
Yeah, I think those images matter. People like yourself, Marcus, like Rossi, anybody in leadership, it really does matter. Coach mentioned Coach Chaney, Coach Raveling. Again, as a young coach, I really looked up to those guys. And when I first got into the profession, there was generally one black assistant on every staff. And I've been at 3 different universities where I was the only black person in the athletic department. So it does matter, those images for young people to see people that look like them in leadership positions and to be successful. So Coach Sampson, Coach Hamilton, those people, it really does matter. Those images do mean a lot. It can't be understated. And anytime you get a chance to highlight it in a community like this, I think it's a great opportunity for people to come out and support it for that, among other reasons.
I also think having Eddie Nunez as the athletic director at the University of Houston is important, especially for young Hispanic kids, because they can see someone that comes from their heritage and their background, that has a last name that I can relate to, that's in a major leadership position in this city at the University of Houston. So it's up and down the board, and I'm excited to work with Eddie, and I'm excited to see the impact he has on young Hispanic kids all around the state of Texas.
We have about 2 more minutes before we wrap up. So before we do, I want to give each one of you guys a chance to look at the camera, speak to your fan base. Obviously, we want them to come out to the Mattress Firm Battleground 2k24 November 9th at Toyota Center. But just speak to your fans about upcoming season, what they can expect from Rice basketball, and then we'll go to you, Coach Sampson, and we'll close there.
Well, you know, when I think about the Rice fan base, my mind goes right to our student population. I say to my team all the time that, you know, you mentioned the word ownership.
Ownership.
I talk to my team about that a lot. This is going to be their alma mater. It's never going to be mine. This is their school.
That's good.
It's my job to lead the program, but this is their school. And I want them to have ownership of their connection to their future alma mater, and the program is theirs. It's my job to lead it, but it belongs to them. And in that vein, I speak to our student body to come out and support your classmates, because that's who they are. And I think when you get that energy from the students, you can create a buzz that will filter throughout the campus and the community. But I think it starts in-house with us, with our student support. So I want them to come out, not just on campus, but I want them to come out in full support of their classmates.
Very good. Coach Sampson.
Yeah, when I think of the game last year over at Toyota that Rossi did, I don't know that we win that game without our fan base. You know, we were 17-0 at home, 18-0 if you include the Toyota Center, because of our fan base. There's a lot of nights when, because these kids are human beings, they don't always have their A game. No matter what the coach does, sometimes it's just not working for them that night. But the thing that puts them over the top, the thing that makes the difference, is those fans. They hear you. So we're looking forward to playing in front of you this year. We thank you. Can't wait to get to Fertitta, and looking forward to playing Auburn University on November 9th at 9:30 at night. See you guys there.
8:30 Central Standard Time. This concludes this segment. I want to thank you guys. This was an honor to share the stage with you guys. Not just because of what you guys have accomplished on the court, but just who you guys are as leaders of young men. I appreciate that, guys. We look forward. Rice fan base, University of Houston fan base, Mattress Firm Battleground 2k24. November 9th at Toyota Center. We look forward to seeing a packed house. You guys give Coach Sampson and Coach Lanier a hand clap as we wrap up this segment.
You are too.
Thank you. I do a lot of this. You do this once a week?
When the season starts.
Some radio
Yeah, when the
shows.
season starts.
Yeah, that's easy. Oh. You get it.
I still remember my first year of Cheers, Rob.
I'm about to do an interview segment with Coach Pearl now. He's I see Coach Pearl now. We're about to get started in a few minutes with Coach Bruce Pearl, Auburn men's basketball. Thank you guys, media, fans, thank you guys for coming. Yep, you ready? Again, thank you guys that attended the Mattress Firm Battleground 2K press conference segment with Coach Sampson and Coach Lanier. We're moving into our next segment, and we have Coach Bruce Pearl from Auburn men's basketball. Coach Pearl, can you hear me and can you see me?
Can you hear me and see me?
I can hear you and I can see you. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes, sir.
How do I look
can
on
hear you.
how do I look on television?
You look pretty good, man. You look better than me.
Coach Pearl, I appreciate you doing this. We are here at the Mattress Firm Battleground 2K24 press conference here in Houston. I know that you have a busy schedule. I just got off the stage with Coach Sampson and Coach Lanier. Both of them spoke super highly of you, what you've accomplished on the court, how hard you work, how hard your teams play. And Coach Lanier just pulled me to the side and said, Coach Pearl is one of those coaches that's not afraid to play a tough schedule. So they had a ton of respect for you and great things to say about you. So thank you for joining us now.
Man, it's really good to be with you guys. And, yeah, both Coach Lanier and Coach Sampson are two of the really, really wonderful people in this profession. The impact that, both of them have had on the communities that they've worked, the players that they've graduated, what they represent is all the best things about college basketball. And so truly, I am humbled and honored to be in the Battleground 2K with such good friends that I have great respect for and great coaches.
Before we talk about your matchup with the University of Houston, which, I've seen different people say different things. That game to me is one of the best 5 games in the non-conference schedule. It's going to be an unbelievably competitive game. And I feel sorry for the referees with you and Coach Sampson both yelling at them. Before we get to that game, let's talk about preseason. I know you guys have been practicing for 2 weeks. What are you seeing? What do you like? How do you feel about your team coming into the season?
Well, believe it or not, and this is something that I don't think people that are outside of coaching understand. We really don't know until we get going. Now, in Houston's case and in Auburn's case, we have 2 of the more veteran teams in college basketball. I mean, just looking at Houston roster, I know we're going to get there in a second, but they've got 3 or 4 graduates already that are coming back for their final seasons of competition, and we've got a number of kids that have graduated on our roster as well. So our guys, both programs know what it takes, to be successful. But until we really go up against somebody else, We just won't know where our weaknesses are, where our strengths are. Right now, overall, I like our size. Overall, I like our athleticism. I think our defense is ahead of our offense. But it's hard to score in practice. That maybe because we're good defensively, we're just not very good offensively yet. I don't know which. But I like my kids, and I like the culture in our program. I like how hard they've trained, and so I do feel like we're prepared. But I guarantee you one thing about our early season schedule: we're going to get exposed. We're going to find out real quick how good we are or how much work we got to do.
You guys have what many are saying is the most challenging non-conference schedule in all of college basketball. And you've always had a good schedule, but this is on a totally different level. Why now? Why this year? Why play this kind of schedule?
It's a great question. It's an outstanding question. Listen, in life and in coaching, building programs, it's a lot easier to get there than it is to stay there. And that's one of the things I've got such great respect for Kelvin about. It wasn't easy for Kelvin to get there. And it hasn't been easy for me to get there. But we both managed to stay there, which speaks to our staff and speaks to the universities that we both work for in many ways as much as it does about the two of us. There are a lot of things that we aren't in control of. But one thing that we can control is we can control our non-conference schedule. And so if we want to be a top 10 or a top 15 or top 20 program, whereas opposed to Houston's probably talking about being a top 5 program every year, which they've done over the last several years, you got to act like it. And the best way you can act like it, one of the ways you can act like it, is you got to schedule it. And for me, the fact that Auburn is an attractive game for Houston, an established program, and that's what I worked for. That's why I came to Auburn, to try to get our program where Kelvin would go like, you know what, I think our fans down in Houston would be excited about playing Auburn. And I know our fans are excited about coming down to Houston and trying to have a decent representation. This is what both coaches and programs have worked towards. And ultimately, our student athletes are going to benefit by a really, really great environment this early in the season.
And it'll be an incredible environment. And one of the things I'm really excited about, for those who don't know, that this is a 2-year series. That year one, the first leg of this event, will be here in Houston, November 9th at Toyota Center. But in 2025, Houston is returning the neutral to Birmingham, Alabama, at Legacy Arena, and which will be an incredible environment. I expect you guys to have 12, 13,000 fans at that game. So for those who don't know, it's a 2-year series starting in Houston, going back to Birmingham. I always think that, people talk about their teams, and a lot of time y'all give us coach talk where you kind of downplay your team. But I always believe if you have a high-level coach and you have a guy who can potentially be the best player on the floor any given night, with Janiyah Broome is one of those guys, that you have a chance to win. Talk to me about what you've seen from him coming into this season with so much expectation. How has he handled preseason so far?
Yeah, well, Ross, he's really good. He was a mid-major guy at a Tampa Catholic. Pray for the folks in Tampa right now for sure. And I know Janiyah's family is actually on their way up to Auburn. And so we got prayers out for Central Florida as they're expecting Hurricane Milton. But he's got a chip on his shoulder because, see, he was overlooked in high school. And then he went to Morehead State, and he got overlooked by having to go to mid-major, so on and so forth. And he was overlooked as an AAU player. And then, he is he's still hungry, and he's humble, and he does play with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. He's an old school 5-man. He can score with the back to the basket. He's got a variety of really good moves. We will play through him. And one of the things that he's done to expand his game is you've got to guard him out there at the three-point line. He can shoot the three-pointer and shoot a pretty good percentage. He can put the ball down the floor. He's an excellent passer. And he's become a really good defender, being able to guard, 1 through 5. So Janiyah is what a matchup between him and Roberts and some of the other bigs that Houston has. those guys might need more than 5 fouls in order to stay in the game.
No, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to that matchup and the physicality of that matchup, especially in the front court. For you, with the team that you have coming in, the expectations that are there, and obviously you intentionally played a high-level schedule. And what I thought I heard you say was you're trying to the program is here, but you're trying to take it up another level, just as Kelvin has done. Houston is a top 5 program in the country, and it matters who you plays, where you play them, and who you beat. What is success like? What would a successful season be like for Coach Bruce Pearl based on the roster and the expectations coming in?
Well, I mean, we would love to try to compete for the SEC championship again. We won 4 SEC championships in the last 7 years, a couple tournament championships and a couple regular seasons. So that would be our goal. We know we're going to be one of probably 6 or 7 teams that's got a chance to win this league championship. I told the guys the other day after a bad practice, so the good news, guys? The good news is we might be the 30th best team in college basketball right now. The bad news? We keep practicing like this, we're going to finish 10th in our league because there are 9 other teams that are going to be ranked in the top 30, 35 teams coming out of the SEC. So competing for the league championship, I think, you don't like to you'd like to advance in the NCAA tournament. That's something that matters to me. We weren't able to get to that second weekend last year with a 5 seed, and we got upset by Yale, which was a historical win for them and a historical loss for us. So coming off of that, we want to try to advance in the NCAA tournament. You're good enough to win our league. You're good enough to win a national championship. So that's where we set the bar.
So, what your fans really want to know, are you guys Final Four good?
We don't know yet. I mean, we absolutely don't know yet. There'll be some people that could rank us in the top, 16 to 20 teams in the country. But I think one of the great things about college basketball, there is a lot of balance. And there are a lot of great teams out there. And how about Houston going from their league in the American and in the first year of the Big 12, just winning that league outright in the regular season? I mean, it just says an awful lot. And, when I was a student at Boston College, I'll never forget 1981. We traveled to I believe they called it the Checker Dome in St. Louis in Missouri, where we played Houston and Drexler and Elijah Wan and Larry Mishaw, and that was the group then. The great Guy Lewis was obviously coaching that team, and so Kelvin's I just remembered that matchup. Houston beat Boston College in the Elite 8 to get to the Final Four that year in '81 in St. Louis, and Kelvin's got the program right back where Coach Lewis had it.
We talked with Coach Sampson and Coach Lanier about recruiting and how it's changed over the last few years with the transfer portal and then obviously now with NIL. Talk to me a little bit about your recruiting approach and how NIL has impacted the way you view recruiting and the way that you go out and look for guys for your program.
Well, the Power 5 has lost a little over 4 players per year over the last 5 years, which is incredible. I am grateful to say that we've lost less than 2. And that's because the kids love Auburn, the way our fans treat our student athletes, the way our fans travel and watch us play on the road. We sell out every home game. 9,000. We're not a very big arena, but it's a great home court advantage. And so our kids that have come to Auburn have done well and they've stayed here. We've graduated 40 kids in the last 10 years. 32 African-American players have graduated from Auburn in the last 10 years, and I'm extremely proud of that. That is almost non-existent right now in the age of transfer portals and what's going on in the NIL. I would just say this to the fans of all the people that are listening. If you buy a ticket to a basketball game, then you should be participating in your school's collective. Because right now, these collectives and everything live and exist sort of outside the athletic departments right now. And, I want my guys, back in the day, used to worry that they got done. If they didn't graduate, they'd have to work at Subway. Well, now they could graduate and own 5 Subways. And that's where I want our kids to be in. I believe in a free market economy. Obviously it's provided this economy, this democracy, this capitalism has created the greatest economy for the most people anywhere in the history of the world. And I know people are having a hard time sometimes wrapping their arms around the fact that, you couldn't, give the kids any kind of an extra benefit before beyond tuition, room, board, and books. But the marketplace says differently. And that's the interest and the passion, the television revenues, and different things that intercollegiate athletics has provided. These student athletes should be able to share in it. Support your collectives and allow them to be, take care of their student athletes. And of course, right now there is a level of competition amongst schools. And it is not exactly, no longer is it on an equal playing field. And so I encourage all the fan bases to support their teams.
I'm glad you said that. I do believe that, just like the event that we're having, the Mattress Firm Battleground 2k24, without the student athletes, there is no event. Without the student athletes, there is no Coach Bruce Pearl coaching at the University of Auburn. There's no, arena that holds 10,000 people. So I'm really happy that the student athletes are now able to participate, through the NIL process. Let's turn to the matchup against Houston. Again, 2 top 10 teams in the country, November 9th. What are you most looking forward to that game? And then what elements of that game are you kind of concerned about for your team?
I guess every coach will start with a concern. I'm not sure if we get to 60 because both teams are so good defensively. Houston was number 1 or 2 in defense last year. We were in the top 10, defensively last year. So, I just know it's going to be really hard to score. So you got to score in transition. You got to value possessions. Obviously it'll be one of the more physical games that we'll play all year long because of the style of both teams playing aggressively. And it will be a hard game to referee. But whatever happens in this game, look, for me, it's all about the SEC. For Kelvin, it's all about the Big 12 and beyond. So our teams are going to get exposed. And then we'll know from there, okay, what do we got to work at? What are we really good at? And where do we because championship teams get better throughout the season. We'll get a look early on who was more ready and more prepared. But I'm obviously excited about the venue. I'm excited about the playing down at Turner Center. I'm excited about taking Auburn's basketball team so maybe Jabari Smith, one of our all-time greatest players to ever play at Auburn, an All-American, the number 3 player taking the draft. Jabari loves Houston, and he loves playing for the Rockets. He loves playing for this coaching staff, and he's excited about his Auburn Tigers, knowing we got our hands full. We know we got our hands full playing Houston at the Toyota Center, but it'd be great to see Jabari when we come back to town.
Before we wrap up, I want to kind of touch on this component. So one of the things about any of our United Sports and Entertainment events that we host, there's always a competition and there's a community component. And all 4 teams, Florida State, Rice, Houston, Auburn, when they come to Houston on that Friday, will participate in a community activation event that will benefit kids here who are underprivileged. And that's really important to me. And as I said to the people who were in attendance, like, to whom much is given, much is required. So, I think it's a great opportunity for the student athletes to participate, to impact the lives of other people. Talk to your fan base about your approach to community involvement and how important is it for you, for your athletes, to participate in community activation events.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rossi, I'll let you do some homework, and I'll let you take a look at what the Auburn men's basketball program has done over the last 10 years in the area of community service and community involvement. I would say that you'll be pleased. What you said about to whom much is given, much is expected. I've lived that my entire life. Feel incredibly humble and blessed to be able to be the basketball coach. Here at Auburn, I go to work every single day trying to reward Auburn for giving me the opportunity of a lifetime. But as a result of the success that I believe God's given us and the platform he's put Auburn basketball on, which is, in my mind, an absolute God thing, he's done that so that we would then serve. Okay, what are you going to do with these championships? What are you going to do with these rings? Is that what it's all about? Or are you going to take your team to Honduras and feed orphans? What are you doing in the community? We've raised millions of dollars for cancer patients here in the state of Alabama. We sponsor facilities that host families of children with multi-handicaps and challenges. And these wonderful kids get to go to camp,
Absolutely, and I thank you for that. So one of the things, while we wrap up, we talk about, and I want to thank you for being who you are, because Coach Lanier and Coach Sampson are the same. They are not just great basketball coaches, but they're leaders of young men, and I know that you exemplify those same characteristics. Before we wrap, I want you to look into the camera. Your Auburn fans are watching. Talk to them about the upcoming season. What can the Auburn Tiger fan base expect from your team this year? And then also invite them out to support you here in Houston, and then when the game comes back to Birmingham for the Mattress Firm Battleground 2K.
Well, our fans know that that it's hard to get a ticket to Auburn basketball here in Auburn, and the best way to see us is to take the show on the road. And so I'm very pleased with the fact that we've had a good pre-sale. Interesting. Auburn University, Rossi, had 60,000 applications for 5,000 spots this year and last year. It is, while many universities are struggling to fill the dorms, Auburn is going and growing. We are one of the best academic institutions, public institutions in the Southeast. There is this thing called the Auburn Creed. Our kids come to be Auburn men and Auburn women, and if you love your country, if you love your God, if you love your neighbor, and if you want to learn to be great at what you're doing in a really good, safe, wonderful environment, Auburn is absolutely an incredible place. Most of our students come from Alabama. Second is Georgia. Third is the great state of Texas. We've got a really, really good group of students from Houston. And one of the things that I know, and the oil and gas industry is big down in Houston, we've got some incredible chemical engineers that come out of Auburn and are leaders in the industry in the Houston area. And so Auburn will have a great turnout. They know our guys are going to come out and they're going to play hard. We're going to respect our opponent. We're not going to fear any of them. And we know we got our hands full. So we're excited about we're excited about seeing if we can become a good team this year. We got work to do.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you and your team on November the 8th for our community activation event, and then on November 9th at the Mattress Firm Battleground 2K24 at Toyota Center. Again, it's a doubleheader, Rice versus Florida State, and the first game at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and then, again, one of the biggest games in college basketball, Auburn versus the University of Houston, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time at Toyota Center. Coach Pearl, thank you for your time. If you have anything you want to take us out with, I appreciate you doing this interview.
Well, I mean, since we're playing in this Mattress Firm Battleground 2K, I'm kind of looking forward to some of those mattresses. I would imagine my coaching staff, my student athletes, I would imagine that's got to be part of the deal, right? We're coming down there not just to play basketball, but we're coming back to bring some mattresses back home.
Well, I will get back to you on that. I'm definitely going to get me a mattress, and I know we're going to give away a few mattresses at the event. Thank you very much for your time, Coach Pearl. I look forward to seeing you soon. Good luck with the rest of the preseason, and get ready for that big game against Houston in the Mattress Firm Battleground 2K24.
Okay, War Eagle.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you guys for watching. This is the conclusion of the Mattress Firm Battleground 2K24 press conference. We enjoyed you guys being here. We hope that it was a great experience for you guys. We hope that you guys got to learn from Coach Sampson, from Coach Lanier, and obviously from Coach Bruce Pearl on their expectations, what they're looking for from their particular fan base, and then their big-time matchup in the Mattress Firm Battleground 2K24, November 9th at Toyota Center. Look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for tuning in.